that will be lovely. Okay, we are starting. It's week 11. Today we'll talk about two things. One is sensors, and the second thing is Google Maps and locations. So let's start with a new project. Standard settings. We'll start with empty activity and then we'll add Google Maps activity. But we'll start with empty activities and I will show you how to work with sensors. In this case, it will be accelerometer because it's easy to test with emulator. Right? So empty activity. Finish. It's building, and this is the last topic that I want to cover in terms of Android. Next week, I will talk a little bit about Ionic, so cross-platform development. I will show you the tool that you can use to build your application for iOS, Android, and a few other things without really switching between platforms, right? So that should be also interesting topic, but that will be like a crash course. Right, because that's the last week of our classes, like regular classes. In the last week of classes, what you will do, you will show me your project in the lab, right? This way you will get your marks right away. Okay, so we have a project created. Let's fix the style. Right. One thing, and let's go to the layout. Let's go to the layout. We'll use this as our output, right? I won't really do anything fancy with with the results. I will just show you the values that are coming, right? Nothing more than that. So this is my output. I will put ID there. Text view. Make sure that you select the text view, not the layout. I had a few students doing this error this week, so that's why I'm saying, right? When you're setting up ID, make sure that you're setting it for the thing that you want to set it for, right? So text view and ID will be text view. Okay, let's go to the implementation. I know I'm going pretty quickly with it, but those are things that you already know.
Yeah, but my Android didn't allow me to open the project. The one with an empty. Yes.
Okay, I will take a look at it.
New project.
You know what? Change the machine. There is something wrong with this SDK here. That's why it's showing it this way. Okay, so we are in our main activity. This activity will be our listener. This activity will respond to the changes in the sensor, so it will implement the sensor event listener. Right? As we implement the interface, automatically we have to implement the methods from this interface. There are two methods that are mandatory: on sensor changed and accuracy changed. Right? These two methods have to be implemented. And we'll get back to those two methods in a second. Okay. Let's define two variables now that we will need. So we'll need a sensor manager. Sensor manager. We'll need the text view, the reference to the text view that we'll modify. So text view. Not actually all, right? Another thing, if you want to keep track of the last update timestamp, you can also keep that information as a variable, right? So now I'm going to on create. And I will set up those variables. Right? So sensor manager is equal to we're getting this information from the system, get system service, and we have to say which service we want. It's sensor service, right? This is returning a generic class. And we have to cast this, right? It's returning an object. And we know that the object that is returned, in this case, is a sensor manager, right? So one thing done. We also have to set up the text view, right? So we can access it later. Find view by ID, or ID text view. Now, with sensors, we could start listening right away, right here, right, in on create. But that's not what we should do. Because if we do that, we kind of assume that we'll be listening all the time. Doesn't make sense, right? Why doesn't it make sense? Because we want to use sensors only when user will see the results. Otherwise, we are wasting battery life, right? So instead of doing that, we'll go to the method onResume, and this will be the place we will ask for updates, right? So we'll use the sensor manager, and there is a method. Scroll a little bit so you can see. There is a method called register listener. Our listener will be the current class, right? Activity. And then we have to say what kind of events we want to receive. Right? So the events that we want to react to are coming from the default sensor for accelerometer. Sorry, not type. Type accelerometer. And the second parameter in here is the delay. So basically how often we want to receive it. And that's the constant that we can use, sensor delay normal. We register the listener, and now after this command is executed, our activity will start receiving the information. As you can guess, there will be also code that will remove this listener, will stop listening, right? And this will happen in on odds. When this method is executed, it means that the application is going to the background, right? So we can stop listening to the changes. Sensor manager dot unregistered listener. This. So we register the listener. We have code that is unregistering it when we don't need it. We set up the references. So now we can go to onSensorChanged. That's the method that we want to modify. And what I want to do right now, I want to display the information, right? So the information is coming in the sensor event. As you can see, I have few pieces of information. I have accuracy, I have timestamp, values, of course, right? That's the vector that contains the actual values that are measured by the sensor. And I have information about the specific sensor that is used, right? I can have more than one sensor that is measuring the same thing, right? In this case, I don't really care which one is used for it, but you may want to be more specific, right? Sensors may have different accuracy. They will give you different results, right? So what I want to do, I want to take the values. Right now, we'll store them in the variable float b, so it's easier to use it shorter, right? Should be an array. This is a vector, 3 fields. 0, 1, and 2 is x, y, and z, right? Acceleration along this axis, right? So what I will do in this case, I will simply display it into the text view, right? So text view dot set text, and I will say x is equal to v0. Y is V1 and Z is V2. That's a simple test showing that everything works. I will run it on my device. So it's building. That's my application. Now I can start playing with it. I have this, I'm sorry, I have those virtual sensors. I can start moving my device. You will see that it's moving. I can start shaking it, and you have different values, right? We can do something more. So instead of just showing the values, let's detect the situation when a user is shaking the device, right? So instead of doing this, let's calculate something. And one of the measures that can be used is the square root of the acceleration, right? So that will be a float. Square root is equal to I will do the square of each, sum of square of each component, right? It will be V1 times V1 V2 times V2. And I will divide that by the square of the Earth's gravity. Sensor manager Earth gravity times manager Earth gravity. It will give me some idea of how quickly the device is moving. What is the acceleration of the device? Now, if this value is more than or equal to 2 or something less, 1.5. We'll play a little bit with the interface. I want to still show this information. All right, so I will move it here. But also, I want to change the background of my output. Right, I will change it to red. Else. We'll get back to white. Okay. My device is resting. I start shaking. You can see that. From time to time, I'm moving it fast enough to trigger this. Right? Blinking red. And also updating the values so you can see what was the trigger, right? It was the movement along y-axis. Now, how you use this in your applications, that's another story, right? What can you do here? You can use it to trigger a shuffle or some change in the application, right? Of course, you can use it in your games, moving things around with the movement of the device and so on. Right? I'm just showing you how to get those values. Right? The application is another story. Okay, so we have one thing done. The next thing that I want to show you today is Google Maps and location services, right? Something that you need for the assignment. So what I will do right now, I will add new activity, and I will select Google Maps activity. So I have to go to the gallery and select it from here, right? Next, map activity. I'm leaving everything as is. Finish. What you will notice, I have not only a new layout for maps and a new activity added here, right? Maps activity, but also I have a new resource file added. It's a funny file because mostly it contains instructions for you what to do. Lots of reading. If you read this, they're telling you that to get the API key, you have to enter the key for your application in order to be able to use the service, right? So I'm creating a new key, and I can do it in two ways. I can log into my developer's account and set it up manually, right? Copy pasting those fingerprints, but they're really making our life a little bit easier right now. You can take this link, and it will contain all the information that you need, including information about your app. All right? Let's do that. It's really the simplest way and the fastest way to do it. Copy, go to the browser. Oops, not this one, this one. Paste it, and go to the website. You have to be logged in into your Google account, right? So if you're not, it will ask you to log in. Now you can add this to existing project if you have, or you can create a new one. If I continue with this default setting, that's most likely what you see on your screen. After some time enabling API, will tell me that I'm ready. I can create the key, and I'm done. I can copy this value, go back to my code, scroll down, and replace this with your key. Done. Really easy. Everything is basically created for you, right? Paste, save the file. And now what we have to do, we have to connect our main activity with the map activity to be able to test, right? So let's go to the activity main, and let's add a button here. Connect this guy to elements that we have. Maps. And let's add a listener for this button. So I'm going to the main activity to onCreate. And I have to find, this will be button, btn, find view by ID, r ID button. And I have to set on-click listener. Right? Now I can open new activity, right? So I have to create the intent. I need the context. And I need the class that I want to start, which is maps activity. And start activity I. I'm ready to test. If everything is okay and my internet connection is fast enough, I should see the map. If you're connected to Wi-Fi, you may see some delays. or even white screen when you run maps. Oops, I messed up something. Let's see what was the issue. I think I remember. We have to add something to the manifest file. But let me check to be sure. Yes. Okay, so let's open manifest file. And we'll have to add to the application, so right after the last activity, we'll have to add something. I have it open here. We'll have to add this line. So uses library legacy.
You don't need to set a user permission.
We'll add permissions as well. Right now, because we are using only internet and we are running it on the new device, we won't ask about this permission. Let's see. We're in Sydney. But since we are in the manifest file, let's add permissions that we'll need. After application tag, the closing tag, let's add these 3 lines. Users permission intranet, users permission location source, and users permission find location. Okay. The first one is for older SDKs, saying that this application is using internet. The other 2 will need for accessing a user location. And now, with older APIs, that would be enough to use both the internet and the location services. For new SDKs, so starting from 21 or 22, whatever is the number, you have to ask for the permission to access location on the runtime. And you will see when we will start writing the code that the Android Studio will tell us that here you need to ask for the permission, right? And we'll do that. Or actually, you have to do the permission check.
It shows your current location.
Right now, no.
No. Because if you open it, show you your signal.
No, because right now I didn't ask for the permission, so it would crash, right? It wouldn't allow me to do that. What it is showing right now, we have this function here on map ready, and it is simply showing a random, or not random, right? It's a location of Sydney,
Yes.
but you can put their location of Toronto if you want, right? But that's exactly what we will do the next step, right? Okay, so let's start with asking for the permission. Okay, and then we'll add everything that we need to get the permission. We'll ask in the beginning, right on top in the on create, when we start really working with this, there is a function request permissions. This function takes two parameters. The first one is a list of permissions that you want to ask for. The second one is the code, because you can get a notification and the information that you received the permission, right? So the list first, right? New string array. The permissions that we need are coming from the manifest permission. We want to access the location, right? Course location and manifest permission find location. The second value should be really a constant in our code. Private static final int. Right? Now, you see that this is still red, and it tells me this call requires API 23 or up, and my minimum is 15. What can I do with this? I have few solutions. I can add annotation to the class. I can add or change the target, or I can surround this with if statement, checking if this is the proper API. And that's what I want to do. All right? If this code is working on older device, we'll be fine without this question, right, to the user. Otherwise, we need to ask, because that's the requirement of the new API. How it will behave. Run this. We'll see.
Sorry, location code does have any value?
Sorry?
Location code, did you say?
It's just an integer.
Oh, okay. No value for that.
It's 1.
Oh.
If I click on maps, it is asking allow lab1 to access this device location. Allow or deny. Okay, so now we have a similar situation to the previous one, right? We'll ask for the updates. Means that, again, we'll turn our activity into a listener. Location listener is the interface that we want to implement. have to implement methods. This interface provides more methods: location changed, status changed, provider enabled, and provider disabled. Right? We have to implement all 4 of them. But right now, we'll be interested only in location changed.
So can you go into?
So I've added this. So just show you the steps. I added location listener, then I click on the red ball, implement methods, select all of them. Okay. Right. We'll implement these methods, or the one method that we are interested in a second. We'll add the we'll add the location manager. Location manager as a class variable. Right, and the location manager, again, on create, we'll set up this value. It's another service from the system. Right, so get system service, and in this case, it is location service. And we have to add cast to location manager. Again, we want to listen to the changes only when we are in the front, right? So we'll add on resume, and we'll add on pause. We start listening by telling the location manager that we want to have updates. Request location updates. We have to tell what is the provider that we want, and in our case, it will be the GPS. And we have to say how often, so what is the minimum delay and minimum distance, the change, right? We want to get it as often as we can. And the last parameter is the listener. Did I forget about something?
You have to break.
Yeah, the one on the next
okay.
one.
This one is not needed. And now this this call requires permissions which may be rejected, right, by the user. So we have few options. Show me the bulb here. we have to add the permission check. Permission check, you can see the if statement. This if statement is simply checking if we have the required permission. It's a long check, but that's what exactly it says, right? If the permission is granted for what we want to do. If it's not, that's where the if is executed, right? And we simply return. We don't go any farther, right? If you want to be very accurate, add a log with the debug information. Permission not granted, and then you can find out what happened, right? Why your maps is not updating. Now, if we want to stop listening on pause, we say location manager remove updates for this listener, and stops the process. As you noticed, or I don't know if you did, when we create the map, the map is really like the controls are added, but the map may not be ready to receive our updates, right? So what we can do, we can check. Well, we have to check if mmap the variable is set, right? Because it's set only when this method is executed, right? So now in our update, wherever it is, on location changed here, right? We should start anything that we do with the check if mmap is not equal to null, right? That has to be our check. But if map is null, if map is not ready, and we can start receiving the information, the updates before that, we'll have a problem, right? So let's make sure that the map is ready to work with us, right? And what we'll do, we'll wait. we'll simply we'll put marker in our current location. And what's more, we'll put markers in each location that we receive. Okay? So first, to place the marker, you have the code actually here, right, on map ready. You need to get the position. The lat long is the position of your marker, and then you add marker to the code, right, to the map. Right. So let's create. That's my position. Two values that are coming there are from the location that I have there. Get latitude, get location, get longitude. Location is also an interesting object. If you take a look at it, you have lots of information about the position of the device. You have not only latitude and longitude, but you have also altitude. You have you can compute the distance to specific location. You have bearing, so if your device is moving, it will tell you what is the direction that you're moving to. So you have lots of information that is coming from the GPS, as long as the device can calculate that. Right? Obviously, if you're standing still, the bearing will be 0, and some things may not be provided. Right? So that's the location. Right, so we have the lat long. Now we can create marker options. I would call it mark new marker options, and then we can set the position. You can also set other things for the marker, right? That will also only add the point. If you want to have a title, you can add the title. You can add other things. You can set the anchor. You can make it draggable. So if you want to move the point around, you can do that. What else? You can make it transparent or semi-transparent. Also, where is it? Snippet. If you want to add some information, right? You can add the text. Here we are.
Should be set snippet.
Set snippet, yeah. Simply snippet. And so on. This API is quite rich. You can even create your custom pop-up window if you tap on the marker. Right? And of course, at the end, you have to add it to the map. We're opening the maps. And we're still in Sydney, but I can change the position. So where is it? Location here. I can modify that We should receive update. If we don't receive update, that something weird is happening. Oh, I didn't do one thing. Sorry, my fault. Stop this. I should also move the camera to the new location, right? So, a map, animate camera. Camera update factory, new lat long, position. That will modify the position of the camera. Here we are, and we are in Portugal, almost.
Getting closer.
Right, but now, if I start sending new positions, right? Let's say, and I'm moving closer and closer, right? If you tap on it, you have my location. Here we are, right? Sorry?
You are dying. You are under the sea.
I can swim. I'm actually floating, right? Altitude is 0. Now, you can do all kinds of stuff with maps. This API is fairly rich. You can control zoom, right? So you can say that your map, animate camera, camera update, zoom to 15. Right, we have a zoom to a specific location. Still should update it. Somewhere there are our markers, right? So you can control zoom. You can even add your own controls to the view to do that. What else you can do? You can draw on the map. So you can add either polygons or polyline, and you can control that. You can add. So for example, you can draw your path as you move. You can draw a path on the map, and you can also mark certain areas with polygons, right? So let's try to draw a polyline. So we'll draw a path on the map, right? We'll need few variables. We'll need a polyline. We'll create this polyline here. So polyline will be equal to map at polyline new polyline options. And we'll add the first point to the polyline, which is the Sydney. Maybe we can change it to what? To Toronto? Check what is the location, like the latitude and longitude. $43. For 3.672 and minus 79.41. It should be somewhere around here. We will add this point. Let's change the name. Toronto. So I have the polyline added. Now it's not really a polyline, it has only one point, right? That's my starting point. What I will do right now, I will work with it in my location change, right? My polyline map polyline will get points, right? So that's this is a linked list, right? Oh, sorry, list, not linked list. This is a list. We'll add a new point. L.add my current location, right? Position. And polyline dot set point L. I have a flight from Toronto. And I can start moving, right? So let's go to the Europe. We're in Spain. We can move somehow north. Oh, sorry, I'm moving south. We are flying. That's why I'm saying it's a fun API to play with because you can show different things, right? You can modify what you're showing on the map, and you can really adjust it to your application. There is more, right? There is the whole geolocation API where you can pass information about addresses and it will translate it to location on the map. There is this whole API allowing you to draw or show inside the buildings. You can control what kind of map you're showing, right? Satellite pictures and terrain and all that. Play with it. That's the last thing for today, and also the last thing that is related directly to Android. Right, next week, crash course on Ionic, cross-platform development, and then final projects and exams, and that's the end of the course. Right, so I'm closing this. I will stop the recording now.